The emerging of extremist religion leads to chaos in many countries. The extremist group not necessarily from Islamic movements such as ISIS, ISIL, but other religions do exist such as extremist group. And using the cultural motivation and the principle of just ad bellum provides argument on the existing of such groups in this modern society. I will answer the first question. Firstly, I will go briefly about the issue in this case. Okay. First of all, let's look in the term of terrorism itself. Okay, the term terrorism means premeditated, politically motivated violence perpetrated against non-combatant targets by subnational groups or clandestine agents, usually intended to influence an audience. And the term international terrorism means terrorism involving the citizens or the territory of more than one country. The term terrorist group means any group that practicing or that has significant subgroups that practice international terrorism. And the definitions, like most other, raises more questions than it answers. Is airline hijacking or kidnapping violence? Is a government building a non-combatant? If innocent civilians are casualties of violence directed against a legitimate target? Is the act of terrorism or just a tragic mistake? If violence against non-combatants is perpetrated by a state, is that not terrorism? If not, what is and why does it matter? So that is the issue in this case study. And the definition of terrorism is the calculated use of violence or the threat of violence to inculcate fear intended to coerce or to intimidate governments or societies in the pursuit of goals that are generally political, religious, or ideological. And the definition was carefully crafted to distinguish between terrorism and other kinds of violence. The act of terrorism is defined independent of the cause that motivates it. People employ terrorist violence in the name of many causes. The tendency to label as terrorism may violate any violent act of which we do not approve is erroneous. Terrorism is a specific kind of violence. Now let's move to the cultural motivations that leads into terrorism. Okay. Culture shape values and motivate people to actions that seem unreasonable to foreign observers. Americans are reluctant to appreciate the intense effect of culture on behavior. We accept the myth that rational behavior guides all actions, even though irrational behavior occurs in our tradition. We seek to explain it by other means. We reject as unbelievable such things as vendettas, martyrdom, and self-destructive group behavior when we observe them in others. We view with disbelief such things as the dissolution of a viable state for the sake of ethnic purity when the resulting mini-states are economically dynamic. The treatment of life in general is and individual life in particular is a cultural characteristic that has a tremendous effect on terrorism. In society in which people identify themselves in terms of group memory, like family, clan, or tribe, there may be willingness to self-sacrifice seldom seen elsewhere. And American soldiers are less surprised at heroic sacrifice for one's military unit. The difference among cultures is in the group which one identifies. At times, terrorists seem to be eager to give their life for their organization and cause. The life of others being wholly evil in the terrorist value system can be destroyed with little or no remorse. Other factors include the manner in which the aggression is channeled and the concept of social organization. For example, the ambient level of violence is shaped by the political structure and its provision for power transfers. A major cultural determinant of terrorism is the perception of outsiders and anticipation of a threat to ethnic group survival. Fear of cultural extermination leads to violence, which to someone who does not experience it seems irrational. And lastly, religion may be the most volatile of cultural identifiers because it encompasses values deeply held. A threat to one's religion puts not only the present at risk but also one's cultural past and future. And many religions religions, including Christian and Islam, are so confident they are right that they have used force to obtain converts, and terrorism in the name of religion can be especially violent. So that's all from me, and Fadina will continue.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I will proceed with the how and why does culture's motivation lead to global challenges. There are two points. There are 2 points of the how and why does culture's motivation lead to global challenges. The first point is political and ideologist narrative. Terrorism is usually by political objectives. Such politically motivated terrorist groups can be distinguished by their ideology. Ideology here means outline the boundaries within which these groups operate and thus determines their choice of target. The word ideology itself usually refers to an interlocking set of ideas which people use to explain why things are the way they are and how they think they ought to be. For example, a nationalist would be expected to think that he or she belongs to the groups of people who share things like culture, language, and history and heritage. And that is because of sharing these things, this group of people out to govern themselves and not be governed by people who belong to a different group. Ideology here means the ideology of political motivated groups frequently allows them to justify their violence and blame their enemies for forcing them to choose the path of violence. Such groups can have various reasons for resorting to violence, such as the failure of not being able to fulfill their goals through non-violent means or the suppression of non-violent agitation by the government. The second point is socio-cultural narrative. The social-cultural narrative in terms of defending Islamic cultural values serve as a second motivating factor that lead to the globalization challenge. This is a context of social dimension of culture in a sense of unique collection of social rules, institution, values, ideas, and symbols fundamentally condition the way in which members of a culture see the world and respond to its challenges. For example, jihadi terrorists take full advantage of the potentially of socio-cultural values as legitimate means of justifying the use of violence to defend their own version of Islamic way of life by fighting perceived Western influence. The reason why jihadis are easily motivated to commit terrorist attacks, it is because the nation of community is culturally very strong within Muslim communities, and individual Muslims consider themselves as part of the community rather than individual person. So the jihadists believe that defending socio-cultural values of their Muslim community against the influential Western values are their divine religious obligation. Then I will pass to the Fatia and also Huzaimi to answer the question that how can the principle of just and balloons discuss?
I will answer the question, how can the principle of just and balloons discuss? There are a few principles of just and balloons. The first one is just cause or right intention. Before the war, it should have the right intention to resolve the war. The aim of war must not be to pursue national interest but to re-establish a just peace. The state must intend to fight the war only for the sake of its just cause. Besides, the actual motivation behind the war must be appropriate because having the right reason for launching a war is not enough. Another principle of just and balloons is the probability of success. The probability of success means the principle that there must be a good ground for believing that aims of the war are achievable. This principle emphasizes that mass violence must not be undertaken if it is unlikely to secure the just cause. A state cannot resort to a war if it knows that doing so will have a measurable impact on the situation. The probability of success is one of the principles that must have or start the war. Okay, let me proceed.
I'm going to add two more points to what Captain has said. The first one is last resort. Last resort is the method that was taken after the action to avoid war were exhausted. Actions such as negotiation and boycott. When this action is not effective, the head of the government will take his final action that is to wage on war. An example that I can give you is what happened in Lahadatu when the Sulu invade our country. At the first stage, our Prime Minister said that we are going to negotiate with these invaders and promise not to harm them and to avoid any bloodshed. But after one of our policemen were killed, our Prime Minister has announced oath daulat to chase and to eliminate all the invaders from our country. So next, and the last one is the principle of proportionality. Proportionality stated that any violence that were used in war must be proportionally to the effect suffered. Example I can give is when the country A wage war and invade country B, the country B might counter-attack to reclaim his territory. His counter-attack is just cause to reclaim his territory. But when country B attack and counter-attack and reclaim his territory, but he also attack country A and gain another nation country, it is not disproportional. It's not approved in military act. That's all for me.
So I will do with the third question, which what we should do in how to stop the emerging of terrorist and extremist group. So how to combat terrorism is not an easy task, and it's something that cannot be done overnight. It will be a long struggle that could be quite dangerous. One of the first things to do is to find out all the methods that the terrorists use and understand what are their strategies. First, we should know how do they attack us, and in what ways they have been most successful in attacking those countries or any places. If we can find out all of the ways that they may attack, it will be much easier to set up the defenses for our country and to stop them before they harm any innocent people in our country. So first thing is, once you know where they will attack, you can begin setting up procedures to stop them. One of the most obvious rules is to simply have security scout the area for anything unusual. For example, at an airport. At our airport, for example, security guards should be constantly patrolling the area, and if they notice anything strange from who's come to our country, they should check it out. There should be some sort of system to check back for harmful items, and of course the metal detector. Some sort of smaller system should be placed in any type of area that terrorists are known to attack, not just airports. It should not have to be as extensive as airport security, but there should be a scanner that checks for explosive or harmful items. So one of the greatest tools that can be used to combat terrorism is to simply get citizens involved and make sure they understand how important it is to report anything if there is out of place that happen in their country. This is especially true at airports because they have been successful before and many other terrorist attempts have been stopped. Having the citizens get involved is one of the most powerful ways to combat terrorism. It can give the authorities thousands of eyes and ears to watch for suspicious behavior. Terrorism is something that can be stopped. What a terrible act occurs, it is important that the act doesn't go unpunished. If the terrorists believe that they can successfully attack us and escape without harm, they will be more bold and dangerous, and besides, maybe they will attack us in any other time in the future time. It is important to stop them quickly. It can be done as long as everyone comes together and does their part to ensure the country is safe.
Okay, that's all our discussion for today about the case study about the global contemporary challenges. Any question or comment you can leave at the island. So thank you.